Light the beam. It's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, aka the Critic's Choice. With me, as always, is the People's Champ, Tim Keck. And today we're talking about the Meg 2 The Trench. And we're coming into this one kind of hot because right before we started recording, Tim dropped an absolute bombshell. He did not do enough research before, so we've done a little bit of ad hoc research. We're going to be doing research live on the podcast as we record because Tim realized that Jason Statham is huge in China. Tim?
I think he's huge in China. I mean, I'm piecing this together now. He has the guy in this Wu Jing is huge in China. He's a mega celebrity. So they're catering to that in the Meg. In The Transporter, one of his big movies, he saves 400 Chinese immigrants in the first one. Mm-hmm. I think something about him does well in China, and I get it. I mean, he does well here too, but I think specifically he goes out of his way to make movies that will succeed in China and do well. And I think that's what they did in the Meg 2. And I agree with China. This movie rocks. I'm really into it. I got a little nervous at points, but they brought it home for me, and it'll certainly be on the TV in the background for many, many years to come. What'd you think of it, Kevin?
Many years to come. I wished that I could second screen a little bit during this movie. I regretted about 45 minutes into the movie that I put myself so close to the screen in this screening instead of in like the back or the second to last row, because there weren't very many people in my screening for this movie. And I really wanted to be on my phone. And I felt like if I was in the back row, I could have been on my phone. But where I was, it was in like, they'd already moved it into one of the smaller side theaters, and it was slightly bigger than my TV at home. So I put myself closer to the screen. It's the only time I'm usually like adamant that I'm going to go exactly in the seat that I selected and not move. And this is the first time that I've gotten into theater and seen how small the screen was and been like, I'm going to move up.
See, we had completely opposite experiences. I saw this movie, right. Meg 2, in Screen X, baby. It was insane. It was so dumb and so fun at the same time. Imagine you're at your friend's place and you're watching their TV, and they bought two projectors off Amazon and just tried to project them on the sides of the walls in their room without moving anything. It's just over, chairs and books and exit signs and speakers that are hung on the wall. And it's not the same color as the main screen, but it's just an onslaught of color and light that makes you feel immersed in this thing in like a bad amusement park ride. It was so fun. It was exactly perfect for this movie. It was dumb and fun, and I had a blast. It was so fun, Kevin. I think I sent you guys pictures. The ocean, because there's some great like vista shots, right?
Sure.
Like Jaws is such a beautiful movie to watch because they're on the ocean. And Meg, in the spirit of Jaws before it, make sure you get some of those beautiful ocean shots. And man, oh man, those vistas in Screen X, a lot of fun, man. You just got to stare right down the barrel of this thing, focus on the main screen, and just absorb all the other colors in the periffs, dude. And it feels like you are in a tunnel of ocean with a shark heading right towards you. And it's a good time, man. It was just a good time.
We're going to post the photo that you sent our group text to the Substack so that people can see this. I mean, he's not lying. The exit signs are under where they're projecting the movie. So they're projecting the movie onto the exit signs. You might be hearing this thinking, oh, well, Screen X, this is new technology. So this is probably just that the movie theater hasn't had a chance to update the theater. No, they've been offering Screen X since pre-pandemic. We've been talking about going since pre-pandemic. This is a movie theater that is closing. It's Regal Union Square. They're going to be shutting this thing down. You got to imagine it's partially due to the fact that they are showing us they don't care about their offerings.
They have 4DX as well, which I think we should see Blue Beetle in 4DX. I'm just throwing that out there. I think we should. I think it might be fun. Let's just go for it. 4DX is a process. They have different speakers. They've got these fancy chairs. It moves with the action. You're wearing 3D goggles. I mean, it's an onslaught of the senses. The ScreenX theater could be packed up in 10 minutes tops. Like there's no cleanup. They don't even have to unbolt anything. They just like move 2 projectors and they're done. They don't have to paint the walls or nothing. I mean, it's such a shoddy. When it first happened, I was like, this can't be it. There's no way. This can't be right. I was Ryan Reynolds watching the Pointer Brothers and I Think You Should Leave.
Oh my God.
Not Ryan Reynolds. Oh my God. Who's our boy? John Reynolds.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? That scene.
Oh yeah.
He's like, this can't be what it is. And that's what I was thinking in ScreenX. And now it was fun. It was totally worth it. And I'm glad I got to spend time with Jason Statham and these giant sharks. Kevin, you said you wanted to be on your phone. Was that the entire movie or just the 2 hours that we spent underwater in this boring ass submarine station or whatever the fuck it was?
Yeah, that's going to be the 2 hours in the underwater submarine station, which I felt lied to by the trailer because I had no idea we were going to spend that much time in the boring submarine station. It wasn't even that dangerous of a submarine station. It looked like it was built by sinking a ship. That was the most interesting part of it. When they went over it and they're like, it's not a shipwreck, but the top of the station kind of looked like the underside of a ship. And I think the text was on there upside down. I was like, this is incredible. What a cool way. Of course, this is the only way to build this station down in a previously unknown part of the Marianas Trench. Like, how the fuck are you going to there's megalodons. How are you going to get a construction crew big enough to build this massive undersea base down there? You're going to send a ship out there and you're going to sink it. That's so cool. No, we spent no time on that. All we did is have somebody issue empty threats to them from the surface while Jason Statham searches for another sub. And then the villain takes the cooler way out by making the undersea equivalent of a hot air balloon and just rocketing to the surface. By the way, I did not see the Meg 1. I can only assume that they established at some point in that movie that the bends don't exist in this universe.
Yeah. My favorite part of this movie is when Jason Statham is at the bottom of the ocean and he opens he's going to open the door and swim to another door, but he has to go outside.
Yeah,
and they were like, someone's like, won't the water pressure crush him? And someone else goes, no, that's not what it's really like. and they're just like, he just has to get water up his nose, fill his sinuses, and then he's good. And he was fine. That was not a big deal at all. And even that dude who they were setting up the balloon for Jason Statham to ride one up, and instead the villain did it. That guy's dead. 100% he's dead. I mean, unless his suit is so maybe his suit is so good that it is magic or whatever. But I feel like in most circumstances that guy would be dead. And Jason Statham should have been crushed, I think. Maybe I don't know anything about science. I mean, we had a bunch of billionaires on a sub looking at the Titanic and they didn't swim out. You think if they could just filled up their sinus cavities, none of us would be complaining about how they lost a sub. They'd all just be deep breathing water and then ballooning to the surface like these guys.
Maybe that's how free divers do it. It was insane. The logic of how this supposedly works is that he was supposed to not just get some water in his nose. He was supposed to fill his sinus cavities with water. Have you ever looked up the anatomy of the human head? Do you know what our sinus passages look like? Or look up what the sinus passages look like in the human skull. They're big. They're really big. Jason Statham, to avoid having his skull crushed, having that open air pocket crushed, has to fill his sinuses with seawater, and then he'll be good for 20 to 40 seconds. I just had COVID. I've been using saline spray in my nose. A little stream of saline spray burns like a motherfucker. And then to be able to clear out your sinuses from blowing any of that stuff out, it's not happening. Jason Statham is so fucking dead. Oh my God.
I can safely say you would have not survived Meg 1. I think a little saline in the nose. There's a scene in that where everyone puts saline in their nose, and the people who can't do it get fed to the shark. So,
oh my God.
I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. But I will tell you some big differences between Meg 1 and Meg 2.
Please, because I have questions.
At first, I thought were good moves, right? Meg 1, they were like, it's about a shark. It's Jason Statham. The second one, they're like, this is a Jason Statham movie. Mm-hmm. We need to lean into this. And somehow between the first one and the second one, he learned martial arts again, which is a Jason Statham classic. Like, we just know he knows martial arts, but watching him do kung fu on this ship, I realized he just didn't do that in the first movie. There was no hand-to-hand combat in the first movie. It was him just fighting a shark. So that was fun, but I'm like, cool. They're just showing us this is a Jason Statham movie. This is how every Jason Statham movie works. He knows some weird form of karate that isn't really, I don't know what it is. It's not any martial art that anyone's familiar with. I guess it's like kickboxing or something, kind of, but he knows this. He's got his Jason Statham fighting style, and he does it. Jason Statham. Then they added these robot suits of armor, and there's just a scene of this guy wearing this and turning around and just kicking a block of concrete. And I was like, this is nuts. This is literally Hobbs and Shaw, right? Isn't this exactly what Idris Elba did? Is he like infused his spine or something so that he was stronger than an average person or whatever? I'm like, This is a Jason Statham movie through and through. And there was so much like person v person combat in this. It was crazy. The fact that we didn't get more combat use out of the suit, I thought was a little weird.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it the whole time I'm just, and also he had a love interest in the first one. Mm-hmm. And in this one, his main, I guess not love interest, but his main relationship in this was the daughter of that woman who was a kid in the first one. And so he is somehow, I guess, also raising this. I guess their relationship went pretty well because he's raising her daughter as his own, and she's just not in the picture anymore. And I think that was also another thing that was like, listen, this is about Jason Statham. He needs a damsel in distress to save. If he has a wife or a long-term partner, that's not going to hit as good. We need to bring in this little girl and make her the focus of this whole thing. And the whole thing just felt like a lot of Jason Statham to me, which I love and appreciate. Kevin, the movie's 2 hours.
Sure.
If I feel like it's been a minute since we pitched this, but if this is 90 minutes and they just cut out most of the underwater shit, which I guess they need some of it to introduce some of these cool animals that show up above on the surface later. So that part's kind of fun. They could easily cut 30 minutes, make this 90 minutes of like ocean top, like shark battling, octopus battling, whatever. And this is a million times better movie. And this is a perfect movie.
There's
texting time built into this movie for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, this movie would be immeasurably. This is like a shoo-in for our awards category of 2 longest. This movie was devastated by the extra half hour that it had.
Yeah.
I mean, this has all the ingredients in what I look for in an August movie, right? Is usually all the good movies that have come out for the summer are gone. We've already seen them. It's happened. August, you're left with a bunch of movies that you're not really excited enough about to go see in the evening. And so you tend to turn to the movie theater when it's the middle of the day and maybe you have the day off and it's hot as shit outside. So you don't want to go to a park, but you don't want to sit around at home. What am I going to do? I'm going to go see a movie. August is when I saw, I think, the best August comedy of all time, Step Brothers. August is when the animated Star Wars The Clone Wars movie came out, which I saw just because there was literally nothing else to see. I want to put together a list of the best August movies of all time because it really is like a venerated list of the things that are good enough. And I think the extra half hour keeps this from being on that list. Like we gotta add our own cut of this. We gotta do our own Meg cut.
I think it would be easy to make this an absolute banger. And now by banger, I don't mean it's going to get more than a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes, because these movies don't. But I think 30 minutes aside, I mean, the underwater stuff is just as devastating as the above water stuff is great. I think the shark fights, very fun. Them fighting all the dinosaurs. I mean, this is so corny and campy. They know exactly what this is. There's all the stuff with the helicopter and these little monsters trying to like jump on it. And there's like this normal kind of office dude like jumping off a picnic table and like shooting his gun like an action hero. I mean, it's so self-aware. And there are moments where Jason Statham is just surfing a wave on a jet ski and spearing a shark in the mouth like a knight. And it's so dumb and so fun. And I don't know how you can poorly rate something when we all know exactly what it's going to be. I don't think anyone in here was surprised. If you cut out the 20 minutes underwater, I think this movie is exactly what everybody wanted. And by the time it was over, I left the theater. I was happy. I was like, it was tough going for a minute, but I think I got everything I wanted and some things I didn't know I wanted. You know, I didn't know an octopus was going to be in it. And you know what? I thought it was pretty sweet. It was pretty cool.
It's funny you mentioned that, because as the opening credits were rolling on this movie, I thought to myself in the theater, what do I want from this? What will make this movie a success for me? And one of the things that I thought was, I want to see a really big octopus. I knew they were going down below that layer. I was like, there's no way that the only twist in this movie is that there's 3 Megs. There's got to be something else big down there. They have a line in the cold open that's along the lines of like, we're going to explore new life forms down there too. And I was like, fuck yes, we're getting another sea monster. I cannot wait. And my mind went immediately to octopus. As soon as you saw that undersea mountain open its eye, I was like, we did it. We did it. And we stayed down there way too long.
Way too long. That scene, though, where they're walking and the guy gets picked off by the octopus, and then there's those little monsters coming and they're fighting them in the suits. I'm like, okay, this is okay. I appreciate this. And then once they're in the base, I'm like, I don't give a shit. But
yeah, no.
The octopus is a wonderful addition to it. I also like the fact that the shark and the octopus battled for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the shark came out on top. I think potentially, and it makes sense that he learned from experience. I think the shark kills were good. I think they were a lot of fun. It just felt a little too easy. He really took out some of these sharks. Like, he was pretty efficient with this. He took one javelin grenade to like the face of one shark. It blew up and he was dead instantly. And it took a long time. I mean, they were pretty much battling one shark the entire time for Meg. So the idea that this guy just threw a grenade in this dude's eye and it was fine and it was over, a little underwhelming, but maybe they compensate with all this other stuff.
Tim, this is a classic sequel trap. More is never more impressive. Alien to Aliens. The only reason that works is because it's a full-on action movie. Like, they come in armed with so much that they didn't have in the first movie, knowing what to expect. It's the only time that it has ever made sense to go with more of the creature. Everything else that does this, the second season of Stranger Things, it's never satisfying to have more of the thing that we spent the entire first movie fighting.
We want an escalation, but there's different ways to escalate, right? I mean, you could just ramp up the intensity and keep the villain the same, and it could be different, you know? You make the story more personal. They really broadened it out by adding all these other creatures, and that was very cool. But I could just watch. They should take out that 30 minutes of them underwater and just replace it with 30 minutes of the sharks just eating people and just traveling around the world and just show different landmarks, you know? Again, I think they want this to do well in China. So this thing's off the coast of China somewhere. But why not swing by, the beaches of Los Angeles? Just have them go around eating surfers or something like that. Why not have them in Hawaii terrorizing everybody? Why not just, do a couple laps around Florida and see who's hanging out in the water? Like, I just want to see like every famous beach in the world just terrorized by a giant shark and just watch them eat like countless people. And then Jason Statham comes in and saves the day, because something about watching this shark eating so many people is incredibly satisfying. Like, have you ever seen a picture or like a video of like a whale eating like a bunch of little fish or eating like plankton or something? There's something weirdly relaxing about a whale just like sucking in all these little pieces of stuff.
So
and
you
it
want
was
a
like
nature,
that with the shark.
like a nature film. You want Planet Earth with the Meg.
I guess I want a Planet Earth with the Meg. That would be so fun. They should have just done that. That was my biggest complaint about the Detective Pikachu movie, is really they should have just made it like, they should have got David Attenborough and just made it like a full-on Planet Earth, but it's Pokemon. Like that would be incredible and insane to watch, and people would love it. If they did something like that with the Meg, and just the second half of the movie is full on like Meg documentary where Jason Statham has to hunt it and kill it. My God, maybe it could be bonus content. Maybe we could get a Kickstarter going and he could do it just for us. But man, I just love the Meg. I want them to have fun while they're up here. Is that too much to ask? I want them to be happy.
They're big fish. They swim fast. I think they could cover a lot of ground.
I think they could do a couple laps around the planet. No problem.
These things seem inconsistently big in this movie. There are times, especially at the very beginning, where the Megs feel impossibly huge. And then there are times when they start eating people where when the one is chomping at Jason Statham, we get the shot of him with the helicopter blade through its brain. I mean, it seems, don't get me wrong, it seems big. I don't want to run into one, but it doesn't seem like massive, like sea monster huge like it does on the poster. That iconic poster, it's the person in the pool float and then a mouth that's like a 50-foot diameter around them. It doesn't look that big after Jason Statham killed it, but I guess the baby Meg lived to the end of the movie. So he was killing the other ones. He killed the like apex predator Meg, right? Yeah,
the apex predator one should be bigger than all of them. But he still was just able to kill it by like slicing it with the helicopter propeller.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to get hung up on the physics of it, but I think that could have been cooler. And I also think it was like impractical that Jason Statham could pick up a helicopter blade. I don't know how big they are, but the idea of a shark hitting it with enough force to like slice themselves in half and Jason Statham not like stumbling back or something seemed crazy to me. I don't know. I think it sliced through the bottom. I would have loved a nice side slice. I think that would have been better. You know, just catch him in the corner of his mouth and just drag all the way across. I get they want him like being jumped over, but I think the idea of him like, I wanted like anime style, you know, where they like take a katana and like just come across, you know.
And then I wanted him to be like people that it just ate to spill out and they're still alive.
The bodies pour out, and then we get that like that old like karate like just spray of blood.
Yeah,
just like, you know, from like the malfunctioned equipment, just like an insane amount of blood gets covered on Jason Statham, and just dead bodies just pour out of the side of it. And then like license plates and cars and stuff, you know, like when you cut open a shark and there's just random junk in there.
Oh yeah, just like Jaws.
Fun. Yeah, exactly.
They had there are so many Jaws references in this movie. The dog was named Pippet. The whole part where the woman's running after the dog going, Pippet, Pippet. I mean, it's exactly like that moment in Jaws, except this Pippet lives, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a cute little dog. You got any beefs and thieves, Kevin?
Let's see. I mean, I think we pretty well covered the beefs so far. Outside of, I didn't understand, maybe this is a good segue into this conversation. I didn't understand that Wu Jing was a famous actor. I had no idea. It turns out he's like a massive star in China. He's like a huge, huge action hero. Again, we found this out right before we started filming. Tim found an article that's the 10 best action movies that he's been in. I pulled up his Wikipedia. It lists that he's known for a handful of movies that it seems he's super famous for. I've never heard of any of these. It was like finding an entire different part of the internet. So now retroactively, that makes sense. As I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck is the tone on this guy? Like, where are we going with him? Because he's like very jovial the entire time. He's doing a little bit of slapstick, like he's doing some physical comedy in this. He's holding his own in action scenes, though. Like he has great showings in a few of the action scenes. They keep doing this bit where we think he's going to get eaten because he trusts in this Meg. I think they finally dialed that in at the end when they were making it so that it wasn't clear whether the Meg was actually listening to him or getting distracted by something else. I think that's a funnier way to lock that in, and I wish they'd been doing that the entire time. But now knowing that he's a star and they are like paying homage to him, it all checks out. So my beef was reversed by finding that information out. What about you? Beefs and thieves?
I mean, Wu Jing definitely got the I'm famous in another country edit.
Yeah.
Which was, he just looked cool the whole time. He did cool stuff. He was a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He doesn't do anything, wrong or bad, or even his decisions. They might be brash, but they're not stupid. He's a smart person. He comes out of this movie looking really good. And I got to watch this SPL movie where he faces off against Donnie Yen. And the film follows an undercover police officer who tries to take down a powerful crime lord triad gangster. I'm in. We got to do this on the pod. Wu Jing's awesome.
Donnie Yen stars as a blind gangster.
Donnie Yen. Oh, did I pitch you my Marvel idea for Donnie Yen? I think I did.
I think so. That he should be Stick.
I think he should be Stick.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
For Daredevil. I think it's great. I think it's so good. I think third time's the charm. I think he really locks into his blind character work in this one. And I think he's fun. I think it'd be a different take. Whatever that other guy's deal was, he was just so mad and bitter, I thought. And I think Donnie Yen could be like a little more lighthearted, like done with the world, but also, more jokey about it, more humorous about it. I don't know. Beefs. I don't know if I have any other beefs necessarily. What did you think about the betrayal? I mean, there is a really weird situation where a woman on their team betrays them by sabotaging the sub. And then the bad guy from the submarine base shows up and they make out passionately in front of everyone they work with. And then she threatens to kill everybody before the shark eats her. Right. Pretty hilarious. I thought thinking that was so corny and weird. And like, they don't need to be together. I guess it's kind of fun. I don't even know if it's a beef. It just stood out to me as like super weird because this character went from 0 to 100 instantly, where they were barely a presence. I was thinking, honestly, what's this person even doing in this movie? It seems like a role we don't really need. And it was because they were the bad guy and they wanted to get eaten immediately. Yeah. So it all kind of worked out. I didn't know
who of these people were in the first movie. So I felt like, these are all probably recurring characters. Everybody here on this team was in the first Meg. They're the people that survived the first one. So I think it was a bigger surprise for me than it was for you.
Oh, okay. Was she in the first one? I actually don't remember. I don't think she was. Jason was in it. I guess the girl is a new actor, but that character was in it. Cliff Curtis, who I guess plays his like old boss, was in the first one. And DJ was in it. The other guy who had the bag where he was just pulling weapons out.
Yeah. Oh my God. That bag, dude. That designer bag.
That dude's a thief too. That guy's great. He was very funny. He crushed it. I have no idea what else he's in or anything, but man, he was funny the whole time. The bag bit is great. I think they could have done that even more. They could have just kept pulling more shit out of it. And
absolutely. Just sagging bag and Barry with his designer bag.
Yeah, you probably picked up on the fact that he wasn't the first one because he's like, no, I learned my mistakes and now he knows like karate and stuff. And it's like, yes, I love that. I love that for a character that learned from the first movie, got their shit together, and is working it out. It's like how Chris Tucker slowly learns karate over the Rush Hour movies.
Yeah.
Where it's like he just gets better at fighting, like with this arc over all the Rush Hours. was cool to have him see that. And I don't know, in the third one, he should be like special ops or something. They need to keep cranking him to 11 and just figure out what the next thing for him to do is. I want him like sniping. Like he needs to go full military. Bug out bag, so like funny. Shelter underground.
He needs to be doing stuff in fight scenes that just straight up embarrasses Jason Statham. Like they need to put the entire fight budget behind that guy.
If him and Jason Statham aren't back to back, like punching two sharks, then the franchise has failed. If they aren't both kickboxing sharks back to back in the third one, man, oh man, I think there's definitely going to be a third one too. There's gotta be. This thing is going to be huge over China. The first one made $500 million. I think this one's at 300 million already. And
wild.
I think there's just going to be a whole streaming. I don't know how much. Well, who knows how much money people make from streaming now? I guess that's part of the strike and all that. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be good. It was cool. Kevin, you got any other takes?
You know, maybe this is a bigger conversation for a later time, but I do want to have the conversation about like tiers of movie. So obviously we knew going into this what this movie was, right? You said it at the beginning of the pod. Like, I don't know how you can give this a bad review because you're walking into this knowing exactly what this is. And I certainly think there are tiers of movies that exist where we can kind of smell what the movie's going to be before we see it. And it's interesting to me because I'm listening to these Hollywood business podcasts where they're talking about the decisions that executives are making and what's being greenlit and what these people are looking for when they're checking what different demographics are going to see in the theaters. And it really, truly seems like they don't understand that there are these tiers of movie. And I think it's something that is fully innate to all of us. The only thing that I can kind of relate to that sensation with is I don't think I can tell you, I can't go through Netflix and tell you which of the shows are genuinely popular and viewed as good by like Gen Z, right? I don't know if people actually love Emily in Paris or if it's something that Netflix is throwing a ton of money behind. I remember raving to you about Ginny and Georgia one time, and you looked at me like I had three heads. So I think it's a little bit weird recently that
it's like the most streamed show for the first half of this year.
Yeah, it's like a massive hit. So it's
insanely popular.
But there's a tier where I know what it is, right? It's not prestige TV. Maybe that's something like we talk about prestige TV. There are definitely prestige movies. And then there's a lower tier. And I don't think it's as simple as what Martin Scorsese has gone on record to simplify it as in the past, as like Marvel movies aren't films. They're like a roller coaster ride. I get what he's saying. I'm not mad at him for saying that. But I do think that there are certain movies that can transcend. So like The Dark Knight is a great example of something that is a superhero movie, but it transcends into the prestige level. You can kind of tell with the way that people are talking about things. A lot of times the things that are genuinely prestige, people will have strong reactions to them. They'll love them or they'll hate them. But the fact that they're having that strong reaction usually means that these things were really well crafted. Beau is Afraid is a great example of that from this year. Oppenheimer, you loved it. I hated it. It's a well-crafted movie. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not a prestige movie because it is. So I think I do want to have a bigger conversation about that at some point, or maybe we'll do like a big article on our Substack about these tiers of movies, because I think the tiers exist. And then I think within those tiers, there's a ranking of whether something is good or bad. Like it can be a good mid-tier movie without being a bad top tier movie. You know what I mean? It can be better than a bad top tier movie. And I think this is a mediocre mid-tier movie that could have been a great mid-tier movie if they shaved off that half hour under the ocean.
I think we've kind of figured this out a little bit with our rankings too, where we've been throwing things on order. And I know we missed the last one, so we've got to do some makeups on our review preview pod. I think we could definitely do a ranking pod, at least figure out what those are. I mean, for me, this is an ideal FX movie. Like you'll be able to watch this on the FX app with commercials in between, and you'll have it on while you're like, doing something else or like chilling out. Right. There's like these certain tiers. I got really excited for, what's that? The sequel to Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I like those movies a lot.
Same here.
I I want to see it in the theaters, but I haven't seen any of the either ones in theater. Neither of the previous ones in theater. To me, they are home, relaxing. Like you've got a little blanket, you're like eating something. Like that's the kind of movie those are to me. And seeing it in a theater seems weird. Talking Rotten Tomatoes, though, for this first one, The Meg, 46-44, and for the second one, 24-75, which I think is nature, figuring things out again. 29-73 is what it was. And I think I've always said that's a sweet spot for movies. That's where The Meg belongs. And I think it's just showing that people have seen Meg. People know what it is now, and the people who want to see Meg are going to see Meg too. And I love that. That's a great score for a sequel. Kevin.
Wow. I love that.
Oh my gosh. Kevin, better or worse real quick than Super Mario Bros?
Worse.
Better or worse than Air?
I think worse. I think Air takes it.
Better or worse than Transformers Rise of the Beasts?
Better.
Okay. Better or worse than Creed 3?
Worse.
Worse than Creed 3. Okay, so we've got it slotted in right between Creed 3 and Transformers. By the way, I coined the phrase the Air Meridian, which will be just the middle of our list. That separates the top from the bottom in our list. And it's right below the Air Meridian. So I think that's it, Kev.
It's just like that thermal layer in the Meg. Hey, thanks so much for listening, everybody. We'll be back here next week with Blue Beetle and Starter Udom. We're playing some catch up. So we will see you then. Till then, stay nerdy, everybody. Bye.
Bye.